Welcome to the Bird's Eye View. My name is Randy the War Duck, and most of you know that I am a veteran of the U.S. Army. And so sometimes when I read these articles about POW or missing World War II vets, it hits a little closer to me, and I get into them. I start reading, I start doing some research, but I wanted to share this one with you not because there's a lot known about it or anything, but because the ending I think is really special. So let's go ahead and we'll talk about this one. So the newspaper article says that the War Department made public today the names of 260 United States soldiers missing in action. Of course, this was either during World War II or just after World War II. It's hard to say, but it was, 80-ish years ago, something around there like that. At the very bottom, you can see First Lieutenant Henry J. Carlin, and that's what I want to talk about today. So, the plane that you're looking at is a North American B-25 Mitchell. It's an American medium bomber, and it was introduced in 1941. And the name honored of Brigadier General Willie Billy Mitchell, a pioneer of U.S. military aviation. So, what's unique about these planes is like everybody had them, right? There was tons of them out there, and I mean every country had them. China had them, like everybody had them, literally, except for the bad guys. But all of the allies had them. All the allies flew them. So it's pretty crazy that this was such a widely used and very, very good bomber for a time. So, used by many allied air forces, the B-25 served in every theater of World War II. And after the war ended, many remained in service, operating across 4 decades, produced in numerous variants. Nearly 10,000 B-25s were built. It was the most produced American medium bomber and the third most produced American bomber overall. So there was 10,000 made, right? All right. So the B-25 was safe and forgiving aircraft to fly. With one engine out, a 60-degree bank turns into the dead engine were still possible, and control could easily be maintained down to 145 miles an hour, 230 kilometers. So a very controllable plane, very easy to fly. And remember I said that there was 10,000 built? Okay. The B-25 was the first plane to carry the 75mm cannon and the first plane to sink an enemy submarine. Out of those 10,000 made, 48 B-25s still fly today, with the 139 surviving. 10,000 were built, and there's only 139 surviving and only 48 still flying today. That's an amazing number. That's kind of crazy. I guess most of those surviving are in museums, right? So, something unique about this Mitchell aircraft was it is a plane that at 9:40, the 28th of July, 1945, a B-25D variant crashed into the thick fog into the north side of the Empire State Building between the 79th and 80th floor. 14 people died, 11 in the building, and 3 occupants of the aircraft, including the pilot. Betty Lou Oliver, an elevator attendant, survived the impact and the subsequent fall of the elevator cage 75 stories to the basement. That is absolutely amazing and terrifying. I bet Betty Lou Oliver never, ever rode in another elevator. God, it dropped 75 stories and fell into the basement, and she lived through it. That's craziness. That's absolutely crazy. All right, so the B-25, it has 5-ish crew, sometimes 6. 1 pilot, navigator, bombardier, turret gunner, engineer, radio operator, waist gunner, and tail gunner. So I know that sounded like a lot, but you had a pilot, you had a person that was a navigator, bombardier, you had a turret gunner or engineer, you had a radio operator slash waist gunner, and then you had a tail gunner. So some of those people had multiple jobs. First Lieutenant Carlin was a navigator bombardier, so he actually was the guy dropping the bombs and helping navigate. So the length of the bird is 52 feet, wingspan 67 feet, so it's a little wider than long. It stands 16 feet 4 inches high, and is powered by 2 Wright 2692 twin cyclones, 14-cylinder, 2-row air-cooled radial piston engine, 1700 horsepower. And the biggest complaint of these aircraft were it was just too loud. I guess the engines were just loud, and because where they put the exhaust, because of how the cowling and everything was, it was just a lot for them. So that was basically the biggest complaint to that aircraft. So performance-wise, maximum speed of 272 miles per hour, which is 438 kilometers for those European folks. And cruising speed, 230 miles an hour, 370 kilometers. Range, 1,350 miles or 2,100 kilometers. Service ceiling was 24,000 feet. Here's a little story about the durability. So let's see. The Mitchell was extremely sturdy and could withstand tremendous punishment. One B-25C of the 321st Bomb Group was nicknamed Patches. Patches because its crew chief painted all the aircraft flak holes, the patches from the flak holes, with bright yellow zinc chromatic primer. By the end of the war, this aircraft had completed over 300 missions, had been belly landed 6 times, had over 400 patch holes, and the airframe of Patches was so distorted from battle damage that straight and level flight required an 8-degree left aileron trim and a 6-degree right rudder, causing the aircraft to crab sideways across the sky. So to go straight, basically you had to fly at an angle. That is absolutely insane. But very durable aircraft, and was widely used everywhere. So in the Asian Pacific, most B-25s in American service were used in the war against Japan. And in Asia and in the Pacific, the Mitchell fought from the North to the South Pacific and the Far East. And these areas included campaigns in the Aleutian Islands, Papua New Guinea, the Solomon Islands, New Britain, China, Burma, which is where First Lieutenant James Carlin, First Lieutenant Henry Carlin went down, and the island hopping campaign of Central Pacific, as well as the Doolittle raid. The B-25 is the aircraft that was used in the Doolittle raid. I believe that was a D variant though, but it was still the same aircraft. So widely used, very, very famous aircraft. Using similar mass height, tactical level skip bombing, the B-25 proved itself a capable anti-shipping weapon and sank many enemy sea vessels. An ever-increasing number of forward-firing guns made the B-25 a formidable strafing aircraft for island warfare. The strafer model were the B-25Cs and D-1s, the B-25 J-1s, and the J-2 subseries with the NAA strafer nose, which is just basically a bunch of guns sticking up front. So you can see the B-25 was an amazing aircraft. Everybody was flying those, and that's just what it was. In Burma, the B-25 was used to attack Japanese communication links, especially bridges in central Burma. It also helped supply the besieged troops on the Impel in 1944. The China Air Task Force, the Chinese American Composite Wing, the 1st Air Commando Group, the 341st Bomb Group, and eventually The relocated 12th Bomb Group all operated the B-25s in the China, Burma, India theater. Many of these missions involved battlefield isolation, interdiction, and close air support. So, the B-25 was initially a medium height bomber, and then what they figured out that in the island campaign that they just couldn't do it that way, and so they would basically fly above the tree chops and do it that way. So, very special aircraft. And so let's get back to this here is First Lieutenant Henry J. Carlin served as the first lieutenant and navigator bombardier on the B-25C, tail number 4253417, the 22nd Bomber Squadron, the 341st Bomb Group, medium U.S. Army Air Force during World War II. He resided in Philadelphia County, Pennsylvania prior to the war. 4253417 took off with a crew of 6 from Kurmatola Airfield out of Bangladesh on a combat mission over Burma, Myanmar. They were last seen over the target and were not seen of or heard from again. Henry was declared missing in action in a crash in the war. He was awarded Distinguished Flying Cross, Air Medal, and Purple Heart. And so there was 6 of them on the bird, and 4 of them died. Sidney Burke, Henry J. Carlin, Nathaniel Hightower, and Charles Cook. 2 members were taken POW from the crash, and they were both held in the Japanese POW camp. They are Sergeant John Boyd and Sergeant John Lejeune Jr. Sergeant John Boyd, radio operator who survived the war. He returned to Kentucky, but unfortunately, John Lejeune Jr., the engineer, died while a POW, and many reports were that it was from injuries due to the crash, not something that happened in the POW camp. But who's to say, because all that stuff that happened back then, it's hard to know. Probably the only one that would have known would be Sergeant John Boyd. But, so, since they were lost in Burma and Myanmar, what happened to those folks is they were basically set for in the Manila American Cemetery. And so let's watch a little video about that here. And here we go.
Manila American Cemetery is located in the capital city of the Philippines. It is the largest of all American overseas military cemeteries, occupying over 150 acres on a prominent plateau with a breathtaking view of the Manila skyline. Here rest more than 17,000 American servicemen and women. Most lost their lives in the Philippines and New Guinea during World War II, but over a dozen campaigns across the Pacific are represented here. Among the war dead are 29 Medal of Honor recipients. In 20 instances, 2 brothers lie side by side. Over 500 Philippine scouts who served with their American comrades in the Philippines are buried here. A visitor center, almost entirely enclosed by glass, is located near the Memorial Court. The exhibit tells the story of the brutal combat and conditions experienced in the vast Pacific Theater. The chapel stands at the center of the burial grounds. On the face of the chapel, a large sculpture of St. George battles the dragon. Inside, a stunning blue glass mosaic behind the altar depicts a Madonna offering flowers to the honored dead. In 4 map rooms, 25 mosaic maps describe campaigns in the Southwest Pacific and China, Burma, India theaters. On the wide terrace, a limestone hemisphere contains an astonishing 36,000 names of those whose bodies were not found. The Manila American Cemetery tells an epic story of sacrifice and valor in the service of liberty.
Okay, so that's where Henry J. Carlin currently is listed on the missing POW wall at the American Cemetery in Manila, and that is about to change because this is part of the ending that to me is very powerful. Is this article is nearly 80 years after he disappeared in World War II in a plane crash over Burma. The remains of Pennsylvania airmen have been identified, paving the way for the hero's long-awaited burial in the Arlington National Cemetery. In summer of 1943, U.S. Army Air Force First Lieutenant Henry J. Carlin, a 27-year-old, he's actually 26, was among 6 crew members aboard B-25C Mitchell bomber that went down during a low-altitude raid on Mikitila, Burma. I probably butchered the hell out of that, but whatever. Carlin remains and those of 3 others on board were not recovered after the war, and they were declared missing in action. The other 2 surviving crewmen were captured. Yeah, we went over that. The 4 heroes' remains were buried in a common grave in Burma without identification and later recovered by the American Grave Registration Service in 1947. Witnesses only described them as being from an American crash, complicating the identification process. The bodies were listed as unknowns in Honolulu National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific and were exhumed in 2022 after the Department of Defense approved the Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency disinterment request. To identify the remains, scientists from DPAA used dental, anthropological, and radioisotope analysis. The Armed Forces Medical Examiner System also used mitochondrial DNA analysis to make positive ID, which was confirmed April 16th. Bringing closure to a mystery that spans generations, Carlin's remains will be buried in the Arlen National Cemetery in May of 2026. Carlin's name is recorded on the walls of the missing at the Manila American Cemetery and Memorial and the American Battle Monuments Commission site in the Philippines, along with the other missing from World War II, according to the DPAA. A rosetta will be placed next to his name to indicate he has been accounted for. Carlin served as a navigator and was a member of the 22nd Bombardier Squadron, the 341st Bombardment Group, Medium 10th Air Force. So I think that's amazing that after all these years, you still have people working to bring these people home, to bring closure to their stories for their families. To me, that is just something that is really amazing, and I just kind of wanted to share that with you, this work. But when I was looking into this one, all of a sudden I came across a little news video of another World War II vet from Phoenix, more local to me. And so I just wanted to play that real quick. Hold on a second. There we go.
A moment more than 80 years in the making. The village of Phoenix gathering to say goodbye and celebrate a World War II hero who was killed in action. U.S. Army Air Force Technical Sergeant Lynn Farnham was killed in 1944 when his plane was shot down in Germany. He was just 20 years old. For 8 decades, his family was left wondering what happened to their son and brother. Then last year, his 93-year-old sister was told a DNA sample she submitted matched unidentified remains.
The first few days after I heard about it, I was in a state of shock. I couldn't think. I couldn't function. It means so much to me. It means a lot. It would have meant so much to my mother and my older brothers. All my older brothers were in the service, and so it would have meant so much to them to know that he was back home.
Barnum was a 1941 graduate of Phoenix. His remains will be buried this fall at Arlington National Cemetery.
I don't know. Something about these kind of stories to me is just amazing. And to get two of them right back to back in, the span of a couple months apart from each other, that they were identified and brought home, and both will be buried in the Arlington National Cemetery. It's just, to me, I don't care who you are. This is important work and important stuff, and I'm glad these people get closure. And, they made the greatest sacrifice to fight for America and the world, and they went over there and served and gave up their lives for, the lives that we currently have here. So, my hat's off to them, the DPAA group that is identifying these folks and closing their stories and bringing them home. You got my appreciation, and thank you guys for watching. I know it's a little bit different video, but thanks. Anyway, like, subscribe if you're willing. If not, thanks for watching anyway. Much love all, but we are out of here.